Now it's the unity that is also multiplicity. And that's what you folks are talking about, that there's this unity, and within this unity, there's all of this stuff, including division. It's, I mean, I know some of the great Hindu teachings will say that duality is a part of unity.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wrap your head around that. Because if we say that, unity is good and duality is bad, well, then we're separating unity.
Mm.
I mean, this is like wild stuff. I
It
love being able to
is.
talk to you about it.
It is, and it's kind of again, it's part of those 13,000 year cycles because the yugas kind of like they
Yeah,
kind of like the change there, and they talk about that 13,000 year cycle going through those yugas, and that was a time of mankind being asleep. Whereas
yeah,
this is now
right.
wakefulness. This is
Starting to
now
wake up.
this is the time. But you've got to again, it's like with all things, right? It's coming back to that contrast idea. How do you know how good unconditional love is unless you've experienced something other than unconditional love,
That's right.
right?
That's right.
So
That's
how
right.
can you, understand the joy of unity if you've
Yeah,
not experienced disunity?
that's right. That's right. That's exactly right. Yeah, yeah.
So it's
Mm.
all a grand plan to help us to experience this, and I'm sure President Donald is going to help us with some of this disunity as well along the way, just to give us that contrast.
Well, and I was when I was watching Gavin Newsom, it was so interesting because, of course, the news is always like, oh, let's get everybody all juiced up with agitation. And Newsom did a good job. He said, I'm not going to respond to that. He said, Biden was here. He was really supportive. We're really paying attention to taking care of people. And I'm not going to step into that. And I went, good for you. You modeled a choice. And people may or may not make that choice. But I was grateful he was able to say, I'm not going to engage in that because what I'm focusing on is the suffering of these people and how we help one another. So
Right.
yeah, we'll be watching people on the big screen making decisions, and then inside of us noticing, where does our heart draw us?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, very much so. And should we just talk about the Hopi prophecy for a moment?
Sure, sure, I'd like to.
Because that's something that, again, it dovetails into this discussion anyway.
Yes.
So, do you want to just explain a little about how that Hopi prophecy plays out?
Yeah, well, so when I've been looking at it, John, I've come across two different things, and I don't have the writings here with me, but I can um, um, talk a little bit about it. And as always, what I want to say to people when folks like us start talking about it, go on YouTube and look up the Hopis talking about it, because I Hopis live inside a world in which there are no nouns. So they don't say mountain, they say mountaining.
Right.
So they're in a consciousness that I can't access. So when I receive this, it has to come through my white Western brain.
The filter, yeah.
Right. So please, let's go back and forth about this, because my understanding is that one of the things that's a foundational to the Hopi prophecy is this carving that people can look up. I'm sure you can put it up on the
Oh
screen
yeah,
because
yeah. No, in fact, they'll be putting that image right here, right now.
great, super. So it shows us kind of, coming along here and various things happening.
Hmm.
And then there's a point where either we keep going straight or we kind of go up and out.
Hmm.
And what they're talking about is, here's the choice point. And the choice point is either to stay on this line of maintaining an intimate, devoted, balanced, harmonious relationship with Earth and one another, and continuing along that, or splitting off into a kind of the guy I saw was talking a lot about technology and the use of technology that separates and disconnects and
Yeah.
harms. And I do want to talk just a moment about that because as Uranus is going into Gemini, a lot of people are talking about the importance of technology. But I heard the wonderful astrologer Pam, what's her last
I'm
name?
Gregory.
Thank you, talking about how, yes, that Uranus shift means there's going to be new technologies, but technologies that help us stay attuned with the earth. So helping mushrooms develop in such a way because they can actually metabolize plastic and make fertilizer, for example. And then she also said the most important technologies are the technologies of the heart, which is what we're going to be talking about and what you folks talk about, the inside job. The one that goes up like this, these are the technologies that have allowed us to harm the earth,
Yeah.
harm one another, uh, set it up so that only very wealthy people can access medical care, for example. So it's a path of separation in which all of our technologies support this separation. And he said, if we make that choice, we're going to go falling off a cliff,
That's it.
right?
Yeah.
Now, so that's and again, people can speak a lot more deeply than I can. And it might even be interesting to bring in a piece from, I think his first name is Thomas, talking about it when you put this up.
Right.
But the thing that I want to talk about that is the other side of it that I just love, and I'll see if I can find the words to send to you. The teaching says the river is moving and she knows where she's going. And the people who are going to suffer are the people who are clinging to the banks. Come hell or high water, they're clinging to those banks. And he said, what we need to do, let go of the bank, float out into the river, connect with the people in the river, and let it take us where she's going.
Yeah.
And that to me has been so deep because I can't necessarily control these, billionaire tech people who are taking us whoa up there.
Mm.
But what I can do myself and is cultivate community, which is one of the big things Elevated Planet is about, and know that number one, there is a river that is flowing,
Yes.
right? There is something happening. She knows what she's doing and she knows where she's going. There is intelligence in this river. There is loving wisdom in this river, and it is going to a good place.
Yes.
And so our task is to do the very scary thing of trusting the river as opposed to this thing we've been clinging on to.
Right.
Let go, but know that there are others in that river with us.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and people's fear of drowning kind of prevents them from letting go. But the fact is that you are carried. This is, that reminded me also of, the teachings of Abraham, right? Which is the Esther Hicks, right? So, I mean, many years ago when I was starting this journey, I was kind of like listening to that. And they talk a lot. And Abraham kind of talk a
Mhm.
lot about don't swim against the river. Don't swim because basically there's nothing you want that's upstream. You may think
Right.
there is, but actually there is a divine force that all you need to do is go with the flow. You don't even have to paddle downstream. You just allow this is how you manifest what you truly want. Because we don't
Mhm.
always understand what we truly want. You know,
Right.
there are higher
Right.
powers that do understand what we should, what we really need, but it's that, and I think that in the westernized culture in particular, we are told to strive. If there's something you're not good at, work on it harder. Now, maybe you're not good at it, it's because that's not what you're supposed to be doing.
And it gets so confused. It's so you're so right, and it gets so confused with no pain, no gain. And then some of the new age comes in with an opposite thing, like, well, if it isn't just easy, it isn't for you. And it's like, wait a minute, there's a place in the middle. When I was learning to be a healer, that involved a lot of work.
Yeah.
However, and there were challenges, but I could feel that the challenges were life-giving because it was right placement, as the Buddhists would say.